Your Honors, opposing counsel, may it please the court. The prosecution, in deciding to withhold exculpatory evidence from the defendant, violated the 14th Amendment right of due process to Micah Opasay. When Micah attempted to amend his friendship with Helmaya Robbins the night of August 31st of 2019, he was unaware that this wholesome reunion would put him at the center of a murder investigation. When local food truck owner Corey Abrams saw an individual fleeing the scene of this crime late that night, he mistakenly identified him as Micah Opasay, an identification which he later recanted after seeing Micah in broad daylight, when he realized that he was decidedly not the same individual he saw running past his truck the fateful night of August 31st. The prosecution, however, failed to make Micah's attorney aware of this key change in evidence, causing Micah to accept the guilty plea for manslaughter and fear that a witness identification, regardless of reliability, would lead to a guilty verdict and longer sentence if tried in court. Micah, unaware that Mr. Abrams recanted his identification, did not have full knowledge of the situation, and therefore did not intelligently confess to this crime. This case does not revolve around whether or not Micah is innocent. It revolves around the fact that the prosecution failed to do their job, thus stripping Micah of his chance for equal justice at a fair trial. You first heard from Mr. Charlie Nguyen, as he revealed that the evidence put forth by the prosecution was not in fact conclusive. Micah had a long history with Helmaya Robbins, and the fact that he spent time with her the night of the murder is not disputed. Therefore, it is reasonable that elements such as his fingerprints and jacket fibers were found on her. Because the prosecution's case relies solely on Micah's unintelligent confession and this weak evidence, it is reasonable to assume that Micah would not be found guilty if the court went to trial without the confession of Corey Abrams. Next, you heard from the key witness in this case, Corey Abrams. When Mr. Abrams described the night of the murder, he made it clear that he did not get a good view of the individual fleeing the scene. As he went to the station for the lineup a full 10 days after the incident occurred, this already hazy memory of the suspect became even more unclear. Because of this ambiguous memory, Mr. Abrams directed his attention to the individual portrayed under brighter light, abandoning all observance of facial features, assuming that the brighter light indicated the guilty party. When observing this bright picture, he told the court that he noticed Detective Foley giving extra attention to the individual shown, and because of this, he felt like he did a, quote, good job in selecting the individual whom he later learned was Micah Opasay as the same individual that he saw fleeing the scene the night of Helmaya Robbins' murder. Under the precedent set by the U.S. Supreme Court in the decision of Brady v. Maryland, the state, in withholding evidence from the defendant, violated Micah's constitutional rights under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. This is an undeniable fact. The prosecution knew that Mr. Abrams recanted the testimony and chose not to share this with the defense. Whether or not they found this testimony crucial to this case, Micah deserved to know of the recanted testimony, for it served as the catalyst for his confession. The Supreme Court again confirmed this need for due process in deciding with the defendant in the case of Kyles v. Whitley. Here they ruled that if omitted, evidence could have reasonably resulted in a different verdict when presented at trial, the defendant then deserves the chance for a new trial. As demonstrated by Mr. Nguyen, the evidence held by the prosecution is overwhelmingly inconclusive, and without Micah's confession, they have no case, causing Micah to deserve the chance at an actual trial. Here I would insert my rebuttal to the prosecution, and then, Your Honor, I respectfully urge you to rule in favor of the defense and grant Micah Opasay the ability to withdraw his guilty plea and proceed with a fair trial. Thank you.